Hello everybody, welcome to another Fly From Home live stream. Please let me know if you can hear my wonderful voice coming over the airwaves for you. I can see some of you hanging out in chat. Hello, hello. Please let me know if you can hear me. Got my colleague Jimbo hanging out in the chat. He's also hanging out in Discord, so he's going to be keeping an eye on chat while I'm too busy having a brain aneurysm trying to fly the test profile. I've got hello, he's there. We got Mr. Tommy MXR in chat. He's one of the devs of the COWS DA42. In fact, he came up with the entire flight model, all of the systems modeling. He did so much work behind the scenes. So any questions you've got about the airplane, probably best sending it his way. We can't hear your beautiful voice. Well, my voice isn't very beautiful, so that's probably about right then. Readability 5, good. 5's also, love it. Right, okay. So, without further ado, shall we crack on with what we're going to be doing today? So here we are. Here's our lovely aeroplane. We're on the ground at Coventry in the UK. It's Echo Golf Bravo Echo. It's a uncontrolled GA airfield. Used to be a commercial field with a radar and approach and all that kind of stuff. But then everything kind of went downhill a few years ago, as is often the case with GA airfields in the UK. Sadly, but it's still a pretty cool place to come and learn to fly. There's a couple of flying schools based here. There's also a museum that we're parked just in front of here. So let me pull up the good old Navigraph here. Now I've filed a flight plan on. There we go. There's our route. So I filed a flight plan on VATSIM. We've got a air traffic controller working at Cardiff, which is going to be our destination down here in South Wales. He's already been primed, he knows what he's doing, he's a flying instructor himself, he's also a first officer on the 737 for a popular holiday airline. So he knows his stuff, and he's going to help us go through the process of a skills test profile. So the skills test profile is going to consist of, well, it's going to have to be a sort of semi-VFR departure out of here, then up and into the airways. So you can see we're routing southbound first of all towards Kidley, and then Compton VOR, and then around the corner and on the way in to Cardiff. What we're going to do is, as we drop out of the airways, we're going to join the hold initially, go around the hold a bunch of times, and then we're going to be flying the procedural ILS. So I'll talk it through as we do it. On the go around from the procedural ILS, we'll fly it to minimums, go around, and then we're going to have a simulated engine failure. So we'll deal with that. Then we're going to depart the zone. We'll probably go out up to the north because that'll keep us away from Bristol, which is on the other side of the channel over here. So we'll go up to the north a little bit, and we'll not go too far north because the hills get quite high. In fact, I should probably switch this to VFR. There we go. So the hills get quite high over central Wales, so we'll not go too far inland. We'll just kind of go over this sort of area. Do some general handling, or do the general handling part of the test, and then we'll come back in for radar vectors for an RMP. We're going to take the engine back as we do the general handling, and then take the engine away again as we come back in, fly the RMP, asymmetric go around, asymmetric circuit, land it at Cardiff, tea and biscuits, and Jimbo can tell me I've failed, or you can all fail me in chat. We've got a poll going, so you can tell me as we're going along how you think I'm doing. So that's that. So if I was sitting down today with an examiner to do my skills test, what would I be talking to him about before we walked out to the aeroplane? Well, first of all, I'd be doing a bit of this. I'd be sort of talking him through the planned route, telling him what speeds and altitudes I'm intending to use. Now, we've filed at 70, I think, flight level 70. I don't know, I've just left it up to Synbrief. But we filed at flight level 70. We're going to fly the en route segment at pretty much as fast as the airplane will go, to try and keep things reasonably expedient. So we're going to be doing a 92% cruise, which should give us about 170, 180 knots TAS. We'll fly down route at that, and then round the hold we're going to be 120, and down the approaches we're going to be 100 knots. And then our VREF is going to be 85, coming over the numbers. So I'd let the examiner know all my speeds, because he's going to be holding me to those, plus or minus 10 knots at the various stages of flight. So that's part of the test accuracy of flying. Now, I am allowed to use the autopilot. The only parts I'm not allowed to use the autopilot on are in the hold during the initial departure and during the approaches. So I'll be making judicious use of the autopilot to try and make my workload a little bit lighter. Bear in mind I'm going to obviously be talking on the radio, navigating, running a plog and all that other good stuff. So workload is quite high and my brain is quite tiny, so I'm going to need all the help I can get. Weather is pretty good. It's actually very nice at Cardiff. A little bit of low cloud, quite poor visibility here at Coventry. Threats associated with that would be if we were to have an emergency on departure, could we get back in here? Now, we could probably do a low-level circuit to land, but would that be the safest thing? Yeah, maybe not. So in which case, we'd probably go for a takeoff alternate of Birmingham, which is literally right next door. So we've got Birmingham just over here, and they've got all sorts of approaches and a radar and all that other good stuff, and lots of fire engines that they can help us out with whatever our problem is. So that would be the plan if we have an emergency on departure. But other than that, the weather looks nice. Winds are nice and light, which is perfect for IFR flying when you're going to be hand flying a hold and things like that, because the last thing you want is lots of strong winds. But I'll show you lots of features on the DA42 that we can use to make our life a lot easier when you're trying to do that kind of thing. So that's that. NOTAMs, nothing really to affect. We can have a look at the OFP here, and we should have some NOTAMs on here. There's our routing, by the way. And wind information, so winds aloft, as you can see, it's fairly light, a little bit below ISA in terms of temperature. Weather, yeah, as I said, looking very nice. We've got some forecasts. It's becoming a bit of mist broken at 500, but that's 7th, that's early hours tomorrow morning, so we don't need to worry about that. Outside of the area of relevance, and these are your NOTAMs down here. Not a great deal. ATC, they're out of air traffic at Cardiff, and there's no lower airspace radar service available, but we don't care too much about that. That's all good. So happy with that. We've done the weather. We've got a fully serviceable, beautiful DA42-6 here. We've got no tech issues with the aircraft. We've got full wing tanks and empty auxiliaries. So that should give us a worst case endurance of about 4 hours. So there we go. That's the aircraft. Been through the NOTAMs, and we've already talked about some threats. So that's our pre-flight briefing. Oh, got any chat? I like trains. Yeah, me too, mate. How are you, Richard? Hope you're well, mate. Right, so without further ado, let's start running through the checklist, get the aircraft fired up and get going, shall we? So I'm just going to, while I'm not using that, throw that over onto my other screen, get rid of it, and then we'll bring the checklist up and we'll start going through before engine start. So, cockpit pre-flight, so auxiliary pumps off. Just make sure that they are, yes they are. Fuel selectors, check on, and guards closed, they are. Power levers are idle. There we go, that's better. Parking brake sets, which it is, I think. Yeah, it is. Alternate air, so we check our alternate air lever, it's good.
Emergency, I think you've messed up your window.
Oh,
you've got Navigraph, and that's all we can see at the moment.
Get out of here, Navigraph. Right, okay, we'll just...
It's a black screen underneath. I don't know if anyone else is getting that.
Yeah, it's it must be when I put it across my other side. OBS is just having a fit about that. So sorry about that, everyone. Flap selector is in the up position. Fuel pumps are off. Gear selectors down. Master switches all 4. So avionics, 2 engine masters, and the electrical master are all off. Pitot heaters off. Alternator are both on. Votors are in auto. All the lights are off. Circuit breakers, let's check they're all in, which they are. It's quite easy to see when they're popped out. You see this little white cuff that sticks out there, so it's what you're looking for with the circuit breakers. Electric master can now come on. And to go with that, we're going to pop the position lights on as well. In fact, I've got that on my... This is something of a new thing that I'm trying out. I'm trying to bind all the switches on my honeycomb to it, so we'll see how that goes. So that's the one. Where were we? G1000 power to acknowledge. So let's check the dates. March March the 2024. Yeah, so that's the latest AirX cycle on there. Control stick for incorrect full travel, so full and free. There we go. Variable elevator backstop, so we'll pull that aft. Advance the throttles. You can hear the elevator backstop going forwards. And back to idle, and it's coming back again. Bear in mind, if you're doing this with the TDI, to get that to work, you've got to deploy flap first. You've got to deploy landing flap before it will do the variable elevator backstop check for you. Trim. So let's check trim, travel. There we go. Being very pedantic here, but technically speaking, especially first flight of the day, you should check you've got full travel, especially on the, well, rudder trim, just as important as the pitch trim. I wouldn't say it's more important, but you would not want to take off in a multi-engine aeroplane with no rudder trim available, because chances are, as soon as you need it, if you have an engine failure, or a partial engine failure, or anything like that, it ain't going to be there for you. Only tends to work with the display source, else OBS sees the pop-out window title and grabs that instead. Thanks, Richard. Good old OBS. Gotta love it. Right. Yeah, we'll call that good. In fact, I've got a thing on my joystick for that. Let's see if that works. There we go. A bit slow there. I'll do it with a mouse. Any questions, by the way, feel free to throw them in chat. If I don't see them, Jimbo will see them. And he'll get to them. He was instructor as well in his time. He's a airline pilot now, but he knows the IR skills test game. Doors close and latch right. Let's get the lid down. There we go, and the rear door. Let's just check that as well. Yep, that's good. What am I doing? I'm forgetting all my buttons. It's that one. There we go. There we go. Anti-collision. Okay, I'm going to leave the anti-collision off because it's quite strict with my flying school that we don't turn strobes on unless we're on the runway. So I'm going to leave that. We don't have a beacon. Technically, use a beacon to say you're about to start, but we'll have a good look around and make sure there's no virtual people to mince. Power levers are idle. Yep, they are. Prop areas clear all both sides. Engine master. So we're going to start the left engine first. Left glow on, we're waiting for the glow cycle to complete. There we go. And start key to start. There we go. We've got oil pressure, and we've got volts and amps, and engine's not on fire, so happy days. Amps have settled down, so now we can repeat the process with the other side. Glow's on the right side, there we go. All clear, apart from that fueler who's suspiciously hanging around. Crank it to 500 RPM. Oil pressure should go up immediately, which it has done. And volts and amps, no fire. Okay, we've got a good start. Good, so oil pressures are both in the green. RPM is settled just above 700 RPM. Lights as required, we're happy for now. Fuel selectors can go to cross feeds. To check that, that has to be done for at least 30 seconds. Pitot heat test, so we should lose the enunciations here. Oh, in fact, do it on it. There we go. And check the volts and amps as I do this, so you can see spikes up and then spikes back down again when you operate the switch. Avionics mast can come on. Go. Transponder mode and code. So let's just... obviously we can't open our flight plan because we're at an uncontrolled field at the moment. So I'm just going to put 2000 in there, which is the IFR conspicuity score. And I'm sure when we speak to a controller, they're going to give us our score. Altimeter's set, so what I would probably do at this point is I'd call up air ground and they'd be able to give me a QNH, but in Microsoft Flight Simulator we have something called the B button, so I'm going to press that. As you can see, 1021. We've got set twice, and 280 feet matches up with the elevation of the airfield.
TOS system test, okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Aeroplane Lady. Standby horizon, so pull to cage, make sure that aligns. That's going to be important because we're going to be doing some partial panel flying. Autopilot test, so let's check the heading bug is in the middle there, and go autopilot, and heading, and VS. Right, so just checking that the flight director and the stick follows the heading bug around, which it is doing. There we go. Happy days. Realign that. And then we'll let's give it a descent, shall we? The trim, no, the trim's already followed it. Okay, so there we go, that's good. And disconnect. Works, there we go, get rid of the flight director again. So the autopilot test is complete. FMS, so I guess we should put our route in. So I'm going to get rid of this for now. And we'll go into flight plan. Now I say this every time I fly this plane, but in the real aeroplane it auto-populates your origin. Maybe one day we'll have that in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Echo Golf. Bravo. Echo. There we go. Coventry. We're going to go with 05. That is agreeing with today's winds conditions, which are fairly light but sort of mostly sort of northerly-ish. Right, so let's bring the OFP back in and have a look at the routing. So, first waypoint is Kidley. Kidley. And then if we hit menu, load airway, and then we want November 859er, and we're going to Compton. So there we go. Load that segment, and then make sure we highlight the empty box again. Menu, load airway, Quebec 63, and we're going Quebec 63 to Sorp. So we find it on the list. There we go. Pop that in. That checks out. Just another 12 miles. And from there, we're joining a star. So it's on the. Let me have a look at what that is. Let's put down here. Maybe not. Oh, yeah. ICTAM 1 Charlie. So what we do for that is we hit procedure, select arrival. I suppose we need to. In fact, no. What we'll do, get rid of that flight plan. Go back to flight plan. I'll put the destination in first, and then it should auto-populate that. Cardiff. There we go. And runway, it's probably going to be 12. So I'm going to load that, but we'll wait until we get the ATIS. Now when I've set... Oh. I went to all that trouble and I've still got a working title. So yeah, so normally this would auto-populate once you put a destination in, but never mind. There we go. ICTAM 1 Charlie. There we go. And that looks good. So we'll load that. I'm not going to say we're going to be flying all of that, especially because it's got a joining point of 26,000 feet, which is definitely what we aren't going to be at. So I'm going to delete that thing there. You can't enter an FMS. Yeah, already failed. So that's in there. So Charlie Delta Foxtrot is our NDB. Now, what I usually do, just to help with the descent planning, is I'll just put in the minimum hold altitude. So we've got 2,500 feet here. It'll probably be more like 3,000. So I'm just going to put 3000 at Charlie Delta Foxtrot in there. Just to give us a descent profile. So that should help alleviate some of the stress of trying to work out when we need to start descending. So that's all good, that's all set up. Can go back to our checklist now. And FMS setup is complete. Fuel selectors can go on. We've definitely had more than 30 seconds on that. And then we are good to go. So, time 14:28. We're going to go taxi light on. Release parking brake. And I'm going to try and turn around without, well, probably not much chance for this guy, to be perfectly honest, but don't look, chat. He'll be fine. There we go. Right, so as we're taxiing out, very important when you're on an IFR flight to check your instruments as you go. And this is something we do at the airline I work at as well, so we always do an instrument check. So numbers increasing, and everything else stable. Numbers decreasing, everything else stable, and the ball is giving us a turn in the or coming out the opposite direction to our turn. And we've got a turn indicator down there showing our direction of turn. So that's all checking out. You can also check the ball on the standby as well as we do that. Right, so I'm just going to slightly angle the aircraft off the centre line. Water-cooled aeroplane, so not massively important to put the aircraft into wind for power checks, but you kind of want to avoid blasting the taxiway with prop wash, so I'm going to ignore that for now. There we go, pop that up there out of the way. I'm sure that's annoying Richard. Right, parking brake is set, doors checked, no warning, circuit breakers all in, control stick, just check we've done that, yeah. Control stick for incorrect full travel trim as required, so yeah, let's make sure that is set to take off, otherwise we're going to have a fun time. That's set neutral. Fuel selectors are on, guards are closed, power levers are idle, engine temperatures are all in the green, voter switches A auto, B auto, so we are in auto at the moment. But what we'll do is we'll go to B, check everything's all happy on that, and go to B, and we're just checking that they match up, and then back to auto. And we're going to do our ECU test. So I'm going to press both buttons, and you do that by pressing the click spot in the middle there. Left and right, A and B fail. RPM's going up, prop cycling. Second cycle. There we go, captions out, tests complete. So that's our ECU test. Fuel pumps coming on. And now we've just got our line-up checks, which are our usual ones that I'll usually do from memory. So let's get rid of the checklist now. We'll get our flight instruments set up. So we'll depart on purple needles. I'm going to put the heading bug, you can see this on the honeycomb because it's a little bit faster. It's about 050, close enough. I know it's not 100%, but close enough, 050. And we're just going to bug initially circuit altitude here at Coventry, because we're underneath the shelf of Birmingham's airspace. We don't want to take off and bust that. So, there we go. That'll do for an initial. We're going to fly downwind leg, and once we're outside of this sort of shelf of airspace, we'll climb up and start climbing to flight level 70. So, departure brief. We're going to be taking off runway 05, so that direction. Anything before the point of rotation will stop. Anything after the point of rotation with insufficient runway remaining, we'll take it airborne. But if there is runway remaining, we'll put it down. If we're below takeoff safety speed of 85 knots, we're going to close the throttles and land straight ahead, regardless of what the issue is. So if you have an engine failure below takeoff safety, we'll close the throttles and land straight ahead. If we're above takeoff safety and there's insufficient runway remaining, we'll take it airborne. We'll aim to fly a visual circuit right hand of Coventry and land back here again. If we lose sight of the airfield, we've got Birmingham as briefed, just a few miles in the other direction. So That'll do. And any sort of issues that aren't an engine failure, we can just come back in. We can put a hold in around the waypoint here at runway 05. Or stick it in the hold and work the problem as required. Any questions, Mr. Examiner, who definitely isn't that seat? Any questions, Jimbo? He's there somewhere. Right. So, let's go transponder. Let's just make sure that actually comes on the pilot. There we go. Yeah, it does. Okay, so approach path. Let's check the runway's clear. It is. Transponder's set mode and code. Pitot heats coming on. And all the lights. So I try to not wander off the taxiway. Just grab the... Go away. Good mythical morning, as opposed to what? A factual morning. Got a fuel truck just chilling out on the runway, that's cool. Have I failed yet? Not a great deal of confidence in me, have you, Banshee?
I think the consensus is you have, unfortunately.
Oh,
you
awesome.
might want to just give up there.
Just taxi back in and you can give me a big fat red stamp on my license.
You want me to also wake the examiner up now?
Yeah, you can do.
I think they've probably nodded off by now.
Good legendary afternoon. How are you, Mel? Hope you're well, mate. I suppose we could make a call on Unicom, couldn't we? Let's have a look at that. It's 1228, isn't it? Let's not do Com2. Coventry traffic, exam 93, DA42 departing runway 05, right downwind to the south, on track Kidley. Coventry traffic. Right, that'll do. Okay, so that's looking good. Check the time, airborne minute 35. Fast throttles. Power. Airspeed's good, T's and P's. Rotate. Positive climb, above takeoff safety speed, touch the brakes, gear up. Okay, I'm going to try and keep a little purple diamond on runway heading, just to make sure we're maintaining the runway track. Past 500 feet above ground level, so we'll reduce to climb power. And we'll start our turn as we start leveling off. We're still VFR technically at this point, so I can use 30 degrees angler bank rather than going for rate 1 turns. I'm just going to bring the power back. Plus we want to avoid flying too quickly while we're still within the confines of the Coventry circuit. Now normally I'd fly a nice little box. At the moment I'm sort of doing a bit of an oval, but that's because we went a little bit too far out of the upwind load, so that's fine. We'll just fly about there. Right, so if I bring up the flight plan page on this side, it's going to give me a good view of my route, so I can pop a direct to it. Right, leaving sunny Coventry behind, so direct to enter, enter, follow the purple line. Now, if we were able to get hold of Birmingham radar, then we'd just call them and we'd ask them to open our flight plan, and we'd probably be able to get clearance through their airspace as well if they didn't have anything to conflict with us, but sadly we don't have a VATSIM Birmingham online at the moment, so I'll do the right thing and stay just below. We can start to speed up now though. And for about 75% to start with. Okay, so that's the end of the airspace, so let's get going. Up, max continuous. And yeah, bugs first, probably a good idea. Okay, so we've done our initial departure, so we can now go autopilot on. And we're going to go for heading and flight level change. And I'm just going to give us about 120 knots for a cruise climb will be sufficient. Now you might be asking, why am I not using nav mode? Well, that is one thing you're not allowed to do on a on an IR skills test in the UK anyway. So we're just restricted to vertical modes and heading select. Can't use approach, can't use nav mode or anything fancy like that. Okay, so let's go PFD options, standard barrow. So we are now climbing to a flight level. I'm going to leave this on the QNH though, until we are well out of the way of Coventry. And we just settle into the instrument scan, and we're keeping a close eye on the outside air temperature. Now, at this point, we'd be asking the examiner, do we have any ice, Mr. Examiner? Because I'd be sat here with a hood on, which means I'd basically only be able to see this, and I'd have no idea what was going on outside. Obviously, in the real world, you're able to look outside and say, oh, I'm in cloud. But on an IR skills test, you must always assume that you're in cloud. So if you're inside the icing range for the DA42, that's anything under 3 degrees, according to the book. You need to be asking the examiner, do we have any ice accruing? At which point he's going to either say, no, we don't have any ice, shut up and stop asking me, or he's going to say, yeah, there probably is some ice. So he's going to, or she indeed, is going to take over the usage of the anti-icing kit just while we're in this kind of slightly weird exam situation. Can you use autopilot in the real test or any flight director? You can use the autopilot, yeah, absolutely, you can use the autopilot. In fact, when you're hand flying, you have to make sure there's no flight director on. So you have to get rid of flight director when you're on test and you're hand flying. Right. So we've got Compton VOR coming up there, so it's probably a good idea to have that tuned as a backup. So let's get rid of that and that. Pull up the frequency. It's 11435, so I'm just going to pop that into a nav radio. Like that. And it's idented Compton, and what we can do is we're going to have bearing 1 on nav 1, just as a backup nav source. I'm cheating here by looking outside, but obviously I don't have a real examiner to ask if we've got any icing, so I think we've kind of just popped up through a hole in the cloud, haven't we, really? Not really busted through anything. Okay, so happy days. Now, in the real aeroplane, I can expand this flight plan to cover the whole page and give us loads more information, so it will have an estimated fuel remaining at waypoint on each of these as well, which is really, really useful because you've got to do at least one fuel check on your skills test and match that up with your plug. So, go back to ones ago. In fact, let's level off before I start diving through the paperwork. Fly the plane first and foremost. We should probably do the after takeoff checklist as well, shouldn't we? So, flaps are up. Landing and taxi can go. Attitude and trim for the climb. Fuel pumps can go off. And pressure's looking good. T's and P's are on the green. Okay, alt holds. There we go, and then we're just going to leave the power set up here. Let her do her thing and speed up. Should get us down route a little bit faster. Yeah, on the big page it also gives you times to go and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, you can get it up here. So en route, it's got a total of an hour down route and 8 minutes to the next turning point. But you can bring that all up on the flight plan page in the real plane. But anyway, going back to talking about plug. So let's have a look at this. So each one of these, it should give us an estimated fuel on board, and that's above minimums on that. So when we get to Kidley, for example, we should have 99, and the annoying thing is it's kilos, so I'm going to have to convert this into gallons, so stand by. So that should be a minimum of 36 gallons. Now we're going to have a lot more than that because we've got 47 gallons on at the moment. So we're going to have probably another 8 or 9 gallons of extra fuel, which is all good. But that's because the flight plan is set up just for the en route segments. It's not taking into account any of the other stuff we're going to be doing. So that's kind of understandable. Set up on the standby because I think the next people we're going to be talking to is going to be Cardiff, so I'm just going to put that in the radio here. Not that radio though. That radio. Go. What's the function of the switch operated fuel pumps on the DA42 and why not have them on all the time? So the electric fuel pumps are backups for the mechanical fuel pumps that the aircraft has, which provide the primary source of fuel pressure to the engines, high pressure fuel pumps. So they're just there as a backup. The reason you don't run them all the time is because it'll wear them out if you run them all the time. You only generally use them at the most critical phases of flight, so at low altitude when you're coming in to land or taking off, And you may also put them on when you're doing any kind of energetic general handling maneuvers, just to increase the fuel pressure, reduce the chances of low G maneuvers causing a cutout of some sort. But I mean, it's a fuel injected engine, very advanced electronic fuel injected engine, so probably not a great deal of chance that that's going to happen. But I guess out of habit more than anything, we tend to put the fuel pumps on when you're doing general handling. Go. We've got traffic on there, so just in case. So that should show up with any traffic that's around us. But given that nobody ever flies GA on VATSIM, I don't anticipate there being a great deal of traffic around. Is probably a good idea to put the ATIS in there already. So ATIS is 132480. There you go, there's an actually good answer from Tommy. There are 2 low pressure pumps per side. Each pump is tied to an ECU. There's only one ECU is running at one time, so is one pump. The switch forces both of them on in case one decides to quit. Ah, okay. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's there we go, that's better. Everybody seems to be flying A320s all the time. Yeah, oh, there's that new A320, whatever it is, Phoenix Block 2 or whatever. Everybody seems to be enjoying that. I don't know. I'm not Airbus pilled, I'm afraid, so I don't have that. Don't really know the draw of playing a flying video game in a video game about flying, but that's just me. Preparing to receive hate. Is there anything else we could be doing? So the thing you kind of want to be doing when you're in this phase of flight is trying to busy yourself with anything that you can be doing that's going to reduce your workload further down the route. It's very tempting to kind of sit back and relax at this point, but it's much more sensible to be thinking, right, what can I get out of the way now to save me pain further down? So what I'd be doing now is probably sorting out my charts, because either I'd have an iPad, but more likely I'd have a stack of paper charts on a kneeboard, so I'd be aligning those and making sure I've got the right ones in here. So let's do the digital equivalent of that. We'll pin runway 12. We're assuming it's going to be 12, but that might change. We can pin the star though, so we're going to be flying that one, and it is already pinned. Obviously we're not going to be complying with that, but we're just going to be following the routing in. So that's all gravy. So that's fine. Free to check, so we can do a quick free to check. So we're about to arrive at Kidley, so we can do our fuel check then. So we'll hold the fuel check for now, but the fuel temperature and fuel flow is all good. Radios, we've just gone through the radios and set those up. We've got the navs on Compton, we've got the comms on Unicom with Cardiff on the standby, and then we've got the Cardiff ATC ready to go on there. Engine, T's and P's, yeah, we're happy with those. Let's have a look at the systems. Systems are all looking good. And yeah, fuel's good. DI, so we're in GPS mode. This is a slaved digital HSI, so we don't need to worry too much about the alignment, but we can match that up to the compass. It seems to be agreeing mostly. And altimeters, we've got standard on the primary. We're moving away from COV now, so I'm going to put standard on the backup as well at this point. For a shorter flight, you probably wouldn't bother, but it's just a neutral datum which will remind you to set this to the QNH when you get it at the other end. So if you look over here and you see it's on a QNH, even if it's the wrong one, you might assume you've already done it. Whereas if it's set to 1013, 99.9% of the time, it's a good reminder that you haven't done it yet. So there we go. Let's have a look at anything else in chat. He says looking at a plane full of G1000s. Yeah, but, yeah, all right, fair enough. Is there a crossbar flight director option on the real G1000? Not on the ones I've ever flown. A lot of the ones that I've flown, the older ones, don't have a flight director at all. But all of the G1000 DA42s I've flown, which do have a flight director, have got this kind of V-bar one, I'm afraid. So that's that. You paid money for a pretend Airbus. Well, you mean? Yeah, I've got the A300. That's a pretend Boeing. So you know, as far as I'm concerned, that still counts as a real aeroplane. Then there's me only flies GA on VATSIM. Absolute Chad. They're on the other side of the pond. UK, EU VFR, and even GAOFI is too scary for me. Fair enough. So hopefully you might pick up some tips from these, or at least realise what you shouldn't be doing. So there's Kidley, and we've got fuel on board 45 gallons, and what will be 35, if I remember right. Let's have a look. Kidley, yeah, 99 kilos. That's not going to be annoying. 35.9, so 36. So we're near as makes no difference. 10 gallons ahead. 9 gallons, let's call it. So we've got plenty of excess fuel. So let's make that turn now. G1000 is default working title. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that's pretty much the biggest limitation with this aeroplane. The G1000 cockpit is all down to working titles, so new features and things like that are all going to be dependent on them bringing it to the sim. But fingers crossed that they are working on it. They're improving it all the time. So hopefully. The UK has airspace changes every 5 nautical miles. So yeah, I mean, if you're low altitude, outside controlled airspace, then yeah, you need to be sort of asking for class Delta, class Charlie. Class Charlie's not all that common, but class Delta certainly transits all the time as you're going through different airspace zones. If you're IFR, it's kind of much of a muchness wherever you're flying in the world. If you're up in the airways in class Alpha, it's, you know, you talk to someone and you just cruise along, and that's kind of it, really. The most workload you've got is switching between different frequencies. In the UK, we've got London control and Scottish control, so pretty much you're just cruising along, flipping between those frequencies. So not all that different once you're doing what we're doing today. So essentially,
Ryanair 930 London traffic at flight level 200, descending to flight level 100.
Thanks, Ryanair. Very nice. Yeah, so essentially what we're doing now is just mirroring what airliners do.
Correction, flight level 150, and it was Ryanair 930 London traffic.
He is trying his best. So I can see the autopilot's having a bit of a meltdown over what to do over here. It's interesting. So we're just going to go direct Hexa, I think. And that should sort that out. Or not. Maybe delete SORP out. Interesting. We're going to ignore ignore that little loop there, and we'll just follow it around to the right when we get there. Turn VATSIM down. That's very loud. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Hang on, let me have a look. Okay, done. Yeah, it's the point where you tell my PM to put the mic down a little. Yeah, I guess we'll see what the what ATC sounds like, and if they're mega loud, then we'll we know it's us, but it might just be that guy. Don't know. Right, there's Hexa. Just go around the corner there. This point, I'm just going to do that. There we go. That's better. Not entirely sure why it's so keen on making us do that little swan neck there, but we're just going to keep going around the corner and hopefully it sorts itself out. How do you know you can fly in the yellow band, wind component? No, it's just to do with if you're in smooth air or not. So if you aren't in smooth air, if you're being bashed around, then you have to be below the yellow band and the green. But the DA42, the yellow band is set very, very low, and you kind of find yourself sat in it most of the time, really, if you're in a fast cruise. So it's not something to worry about, really. Just direct to that again. What the hell is it doing? Oh no! Let's just direct to that instead and see if that sorts it out. There we go.
Ryanair 930 London traffic at flight level 150, descending to flight level 71.
Is that any better? That was slightly less ear destroying for me, at least. So let's have a look at this star then that we're on. There we go. So yeah, so we should be on a tracker 231, technically speaking. So what we can do is, oh no, we can't do that. Won't let me change the track. Just do it manually, I suppose. Come over this way a little bit. You can see the original track on there. So. Still a lot louder than I am. Yeah, I guess. Let's turn it down a little bit more. Let's see how we go with that. Oh look, we're coming up on some cloud. Ooh, scary. Direct to that again. That'll do. You can see these stars are not made for light aircraft though, because we're all the way over, I mean, where are we? Let's have a look on the chart. Yeah, over Bryce Norton almost, and this is the arrival procedure for Cardiff, which is all the way over here. So in a light aircraft, it's really overkill, but oh well, we filed it. You still plan on flying the stars even if you can't make the altitude restrictions? In real life, you wouldn't be flying a star. I'm just doing this to comply with VATSIM because it filed it on SimBrief when I filed the flight plan. You'd probably just drop out the airways and then just get radar vectors, or would just be told to track direct to the fix for the hold. So yeah, you wouldn't fly the star if you couldn't comply with the altitude restrictions. Should have a look outside. Hey. That's Ryanair, man. Lovely. Obviously not something you can do in the real aeroplane. Now, something we could do in the real airplane is we can get the charts on the G1000. So I'll just do that in a second once we've gone around this waypoint. So I'm going to make the turn. I'm assuming our controller friend is going to ping me on VATSIM to switch to his frequency. So I'll stick on Unicom for now. And we'll go to there, and let's have a look at, yeah, so this is our star plate here. As you can see, it's also got a little overlay on this. None of our aeroplanes are fancy enough to, well, some of them are, but they don't have active subscriptions. You've got to have an active subscription to Jeppesen or some chart provider to make these pop up on your G1000, and our flying school is cheap as hell, so they won't pay for it. So I'm not sure if you'd be allowed to use a chart like this on a test with an overlay on it like this. I think an examiner might take exception to you have something like this because it's a little bit overly useful. I'm not sure how you turn that static noise down from VATSIM, because that is quite loud and that doesn't seem to have changed at all. We're learning as we're going. I know that some examiners do take exception to you having this particular wind display, so some of them will make you use option 2 instead. Because they think having a head and tailwind component is too much of a help. So VATSIM Squelch is super loud. Yeah, I don't know how to turn that down, mate. If anyone's got a clue on how to do that, let me know. Because I'm not sure how to make that shut up. Yeah, so some examiners do have a problem with you using the split wind component. A little bit harsh. Settings, audio, disable realistic ATC audio effects. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Is the inset map allowed? Yeah, you can keep the inset map on. Oh, keep the ATC audio effects, turn it down through the output volume in the setting of it. Okay. I'll have to, one sec, I'm going to have to switch over frequencies. Hopefully this isn't going to be too loud. And we should probably try and pick up some ATIS as well if we can. So
1 QNH1020. Acknowledge receipt of information India and advise aircraft type on first contact.
right, so let's try and write this down.
Cardiff information India. Time 1450 Zulu. Automatic. Runway in use 12. Surface wind 110 degrees 9 knots. Visibility 10 kilometers or more. Fuel at 4,400 feet. Temperature +11. Dew point +5. QNH1020. Acknowledge receipt of information India and advise aircraft type on first contact.
Sky condition, few clouds at 3,300 feet, few clouds at 4,000
Cardiff Information India. Time 1450 Zulu. Automatic. Runway in use 12. Surface wind 110 degrees 9 knots. Visibility 10 kilometers or more. Fuel at 4,400 feet. Temperature +11. Dew point +5. QNH1.
Okay, shut up. Got the gist of that. Cardiff Radar, good afternoon. Exam 9-3 is a DA42 maintaining flight level 70 on track to Octis. Request the hold.
Exam 9-3, Cardiff Radar, good afternoon. You can expect the hold at Charlie Delta Foxtrot, squawk 3603.
3603. Plan the hold, Charlie Delta Foxtrot, squawk 3603, exam 9-3.
Exam 9-3, correct information, India, runway 12 in use at Cardiff. Route direct, the Bravo Romeo India.
Runway 12 and direct Bravo Romeo India, exam 9-3. Right, Bravo Romeo India to the top. Activates, and round we go. Right. So, let's go back to our charts now and bring up runway 12. Now, we suspected it was going to be 12, but now we know it is runway 12, so we can discard the charts for the other end and start to set up for this. So we've got an ILS frequency of 1107. So pile that in there. I'm going to keep that on a null frequency on the active, but I'm going to put
Exam 9-3, maintain flight level 70, and when able, advise and report your training requirements.
Maintain flight level 70 and training requirements are to join the hold 2 times around the hold, and then procedural ILS followed by departure to the north, general handling approximately 20 minutes, and then vectors for the RMP to land.
Exam 9-3, Roger, you can expect that.
Roger, thanks, exam 9-3. Right, okay, so frequencies are in. Courses are going to be auto, so we'll leave the courses for now. In fact, what we can do is we really want the hold inbound before we want the final approach course. So the hold inbound is going to be not 117, but the opposite of 117. Please don't make me work this out. I hate maths. Is it not on the charts anywhere? Oh god. Alright, let me think. 117 plus 180, 297. Okay, so in fact, let's go there and let's go CEI2. 297, there we go. Leave it on that and go back to purple needles for now, while we're still using that to navigate. Procedural analysis, is that the same as flying the full approach in the US? Yeah, I suspect so. Normally you'd just get radar vectors to stick you on the approach, on the final approach path, but on a test you need to demonstrate the ability to fly a procedural approach. So what we're going to be doing is flying the full procedure from the hold. So we're going to exit the hold and fly around this, but I'll talk you around it as we go. So that's there, so we're not going to set that.
Exam 9-3, route direct to Charlie Delta Foxtrot to hold. You can expect a descent in about 15 miles.
Route direct Charlie Delta Foxtrot to hold, Roger, exam 9-3. Rightio then. So we're still quite far out, so we're not too worried about that. Let's go back to flight plan page, like that, and then let's go Charlie Delta Fox, activate. So that's good now because it's given us a countdown. It's also, as you can see, giving us a top of descent. So I've planned for 3,000 feet. That's a worst case scenario pretty much. We're probably going to hold higher, because in most cases ATC want you a little bit higher when you're flying over the top of the field, because they don't want the chance that arriving or departing aircraft are going to get a TCAS RA from you sitting in the hold. So chances are we're going to be probably sat a little bit higher than that, which is going to complicate our lives a little bit, because it's going to mean we're going to have to descend a little bit more steeply on the procedure, but we'll talk about that when we come to it. So that's in there like that, so happy days. Anything else we can do with the approach? I don't think so. We can set minimums, so scroll down on here. What we got? We got 405 ILS minimums. Now, depending on your school that you go to, some schools have a policy where you add 50 feet to this. I'm very much against doing that on precision approaches, because I mean some examiners will really take exception to that as well and say, you know, you're not actually flying the approach down to minimums. So it's my policy to just take it down to minimums. That's exactly how it would work at an airline. So we're going down to 405. There's no position error correction or anything like that to put on for a DA42. Well, technically shouldn't be. So if anyone says, oh, why aren't you putting 50 feet on? Well, you can say, well, most examiners will want you to fly properly down to minimums. So that's what we're going to do. So timer F, go down to baromins, and we're going to put in 405, or as near as we can make it. 410 is close enough. Is the G1000 getting at the same as the Cirrus 22? The engine page, the MFD. The G1000 and the DA42 doesn't have that kind of setup in real life, so I doubt that's going to happen in the game. Assume you're expected to select and fly the appropriate hold entry procedure depending on what you... Yes, exactly, yeah. So depending on your heading entering into the hold, you're expected to fly the appropriate join. Speaking of which, not that. Let's make sure we've actually got CDF tuned. So 388.5. Now we're still 30 miles away. We're unlikely to pick up a signal from an NDB from this distance, but having it tuned is going to be one less job when we get closer. So 3. In fact, I mean, we could have done this on the ground. I'd have probably recommended that, but my brain is made of mush, so hence why I'm leaving it to now. There we go. Get rid of that, and then we make sure we've got a bearing needle, so let's pop bearing on ADF, and we'll stick that on ADF as well, because we don't need that now when pointing at Compton anymore. In fact, we are getting a signal there, so we should be able to ident this. Let's see if we can hear an ident. There we go. It's very quiet. So there's the ident there. So we're looking for dash dot dash dot dash dot 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 dash dot. There we go. Close enough for me. So that's our NDB idented. So we are actually getting a stable signal from that. So what I'm going to do now is come off the purple line and look at our hold entry here. So this should be on our inbound of 297. And if we look at this, it's a left-hand hold. So we can imagine this being, this green bar here being the inbound of the hold. It's a left-hand hold, so we're coming around this way. So we look at what sector we're inside. So we're coming from outside of the hold. We're not going to cross the actual hold itself. We're coming from the outside section. So that gives us two options. We've got an offset entry, which is a 70 degrees
Cardiff approach. Good afternoon,
offset from the head of the needle here. Or we've got a direct entry, which is anything outside of that. And we are
145 Cardiff Radar, good afternoon. You cleared to Dublin, Bracken 1 Bravo departure, squawk 6474.
We're Dublin, Bracken 1 Bravo departure, squawk 6474, EZ 145.
EZ 145, read back correct information. India's current 1020, runway and use runway 12.
We have India, KNH 1020 and runway 12, EZ 145.
I'll turn that down a bit more. There we go. Because that is quite loud still, isn't it? There we go. Hopefully that's better. Right, yes. So we're approaching from the outside the hold. We're definitely not in the offset sector. So we're going to be making a direct entry, which is, thankfully for me, the probably from this direction, about the easiest type of hold entry to do, really. So we're just going to be coming from about over here-ish, crossing over the beacon, and then just turning directly onto the outbound leg here. Wind, pretty light. We can see the difference between our TAS and our ground speed is next to nothing, and there's very little difference.
Exam 93, when ready, descend to altitude 5,000 feet, Cardiff QNH 1020.
Descend when ready, altitude 5,000 feet, QNH 1020, exam 93. Right, so let's have a look where our top of descent point is. So that's a descend when ready, and we can see we've got quite a way to go. Now, I'm not going to say follow this profile exactly, because if we do that, we're going to be, well, that's 3,000 feet, isn't it? So in fact, we can adjust that a little bit now. Now, we don't know if 5,000 is going to be our final altitude, but let's assume that it is. So that gives us a little bit further to go. So if we really want to impress the examiner, we'd be planning our descent and making sure we were sort of level at 5,000, maybe a couple of miles before we get to the beacon. Just looking as professional and as clever as we possibly can be. Now, of course, it's much better to be descending early than descending too late. So if you're at all uncertain about anything like that, then just get the descent going early. You can obviously use old school maths if you need to, if you don't have anything fancy like this. So it's just 3 times your distance and 5 times your ground speed. So distance to go, 5, 6, 7, 2,000 feet. So 2,000 feet, 3 for each 1,000 feet to go. So that's 6 miles. So 6 miles and then 5 times that. So that's just going to be 1,300 feet a minute to come down at this TAS. So that would give us sort of a rough 3 degree down to the bottom of the descent point. So there we go. Have a sneaky look outside. As you can see, Cardiff is, the weather's lovely at Cardiff, which is ironic that we're flying an IFR flight in the lovely weather. Right, prior to hold entry, I just usually do my pre-circuit joining checks. So that consists of fuel. So we check our fuel levels are within the asymmetric limits for landing. They are at the moment.
Exam 93, if you could recontact me on the Cardiff radar frequency 119.155.
Cardiff radar 119.155, exam 93. Okay. Should really have had that set up ahead of time. But like I said, my brain is made of Play-Doh. 119.155, there we go. Is that right? Did I hear that right? Because now I can't actually see that on vPilot. Check the chart. Yeah, 119.155. Yeah. There's only one way to find out. Cardiff radar, exam 93.
Exam 93, Cardiff radar, thanks.
There we go.
Vertical track.
Okay, give me the vertical track then. So normally when it says that, you get your little false glide path coming up here. But I tell you what, let's start down now, shall we? So let's go to before we start coming down, we'll go to PFD options, standard barrow, and Now, normally you shouldn't actually do that in the airplane. We'll just maintain altitude, but hey ho. There we go.
See 145, request push and start.
Easy 145, push and start
Slight
through
little
runway
change.
12, QNH 1020.
Shut the throttles to an appropriate amount.
1020, runway 12, push and start improved, easy 145.
So, when you're descending to achieve a rate of descent, generally you want, for every 100 feet per minute, you want a reduction of 5% in power. So let's say we want a 1,000 feet per minute descent, then we want a 50% reduction in power. We were at 93%, so that's about 47%, isn't it, on the power levers? So let's try that out and see what it gets us. May want to decrease speed just a touch to get us away from that yellow bar, so let's do that first. Now at some point, before we get to the hold, the examiner's going to tell us to turn the autopilot off, so I'm going to get ready to fly the airplane manually. And we're going to go back over to our chart again. You can see we're coming up on here. So, as I said, we're kind of coming from this direction. So my situational awareness isn't too horrendous, thankfully enough. One to go. Now in real life, if we were being put into a hold for an operational reason, say the approach was below minimums, or the runway was blocked and the airport temporarily closed or something like that, entering the hold would be immediately thinking about what our endurance was. Now we've got 37 gallons on board. We know it burns roughly 12 gallons an hour, there or thereabouts, so we've got 3 hours worth of fuel remaining. Our diversion was Bournemouth for this, and it's going to take us roughly an hour to get to Bournemouth, so we've got 2 hours of hold time. So that's a little very, very rough calculation. As we level off, I'm going to keep the power back because we want to start slowing down to our hold speed of 120 knots. Go. Alt holds. Our timer ready to go. Autopilot off. Flight director off. And there's the beacon.
Radar, this is Golf
So
Echo
let's
Golf
give it a
Bravo
second. And round we go.
Golf Echo Golf Bravo Whiskey Cardiff for radar. Good afternoon, pass a message.
I am VA28161 with 1 person on board on VFR flight from Bristol to Cardiff. Permission to transit CTA for intentions to land on runway 12 with information India on board.
Golf Echo Golf Bravo Whiskey, Roger, Squawk 3613, basic service, remain outside controlled airspace.
Roger, Squawk 3613, basic service and remain outside of controlled airspace. Golf Echo Golf Bravo Whiskey.
Exam 93 entering the hold, Charlie Delta Foxtrot, altitude 5,000 feet.
Exam 93, Roger, descend to altitude 4,000 feet in the hold.
Descend to altitude 4,000 feet, exam 93. Right, just to make life harder for us. There we go. So you can see I started the stopwatch as we were coming around the corner there. We've got a TAS of 125 and a ground speed of 114. We've got about 9 knots of headwind. So we're going to go for an extra 9 seconds over our nominal 1 minute hold outbound. So that's a little trick you can use. Like I said, it's not a huge deal if they don't give you that that added wind info, because you can just work it out on the difference between TAS and ground speed.
Easy 145, request taxi.
Now, there's no hurry to be descending here, so I'm just flying a fairly gentle descent.
Taxi Bravo and hold toward Bravo 2, easy 145.
An hour to Bournemouth, maybe full.
Golf
Yeah, okay,
Bravo
fair
Whiskey,
enough.
just check the Squawk 3613.
A bit less than an hour. An hour was a guess at an outside
My
estimate.
bad, 3613.
On one engine it might be an hour.
Golf Echo Golf Bravo Whiskey.
You can see we've got a couple of degrees of drift
Golf
going on here
Whiskey,
as
thank
well.
you.
So
Identify.
really,
you're
we need to
just
times that by
approximately
3.
4
We'll be
miles
flying
to
about
the east
6
of
degrees.
Cardiff. Are you familiar with
This
the
way?
arrival routings into Cardiff VFR?
Negative, I am not. So any help would be greatly appreciated. Golf Bravo Whiskey.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, no worries at all.
That
You're
overlay
clear
is
to
super
enter
cheating.
the
I'm not
Cardiff
looking
control
at it.
zone VFR, not above altitude 1,500 feet. Initially a routing along the coastline to join a left-hand downwind runway 12.
Props to the guy flying VFR on
cleared
VATSIM though, what a
VFR
legend.
clearance into Cardiff Airport, altitude not above 1500.
So we're looking for our 60 to go point, which is about there on north. So when we hit north, the 2 needles should be there or there. Well, in the real airplane, the 2 needles would be there or thereabouts aligned.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, if you
In
join the
Microsoft Flight
report
Sim, we
then,
don't
once
have
you've...
needle dip. So
correction, once you're visual with the field, it'll be a left-hand
little bit
downwind
cheesy.
runway 12 to join. QNH check 1020.
Roger, confirm 1020, and yes, left downwind turn onto runway 12 when field in sight.
So in the real aircraft,
Bravo Whiskey.
when we dip the
Golf Bravo
wing,
Whiskey,
the
you're back
needle
correct.
falls towards the low wing. Unfortunately, they've not been able to do that in Microsoft Flight Simulator, so they've essentially got a direct reading needle, which is a bit of a cheat, but it is what it is. You're allowed to use VOR, radials, DME markers for your turns doing this. If it's a VOR hold, yes, but not in an NDB hold. You are only allowed to use the NDB for guidance in an NDB hold.
Easy 145, I have an amendment to your departure clearance. Advise ready to copy.
Ready, copy, easy 145.
Easy 145, after departure, follow the Brecon 1 Bravo SID. Not a correction, climb and maintain altitude 3,000 feet.
After departure, Brecon 1 Bravo SID, and climb maintain R above 3,000, easy 145.
Easy 145, correct, via Bravo 1, line up and wait, runway 12, backtrack as required.
Let everyone wait, runway 12 by Bravo 1 and backtrack as required, easy 145.
This is actually really realistic. We've got some VFR traffic knocking around. We've got EasyJet departing. Getting the full IR skills test experience. So there we go. Gone over the top. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's a fair bit over, but that's for the observant of you. You'll have noticed that I didn't turn on 1 minute and 9 seconds. I turned on about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So that's my own fault for being rubbish on the timings. I'm also going to fly slightly offset outbound leg. So 117 is the outbound, so I'm going to actually fly 1, 2, 3. And that should give us a triple drift corrected outbound, which should give us a more accurate position. I mean, we don't have to swiggle around on the inbound leg. Again, it's all very rough maths. Doesn't have to be accurate.
Bravo Whiskey, Roger. Join the report left-hand downwind runway
just to put you in the
12.
ballpark.
Roger, join the report runway left-hand downwind runway 12. Golf Bravo Whiskey.
And this is a heading, not a track. So we're putting the little white triangle in the heading bug there, not the...
Golf Bravo Whiskey, recontact me on the Cardiff Tower frequency 133.105.
We're waiting for the beam point, so when the bar lines up with the little white dots there, we start our stopwatch for our wind corrected minute. I'll try to remember the timings this time. What's target power setting? Yeah, about sort of 45%. It depends on your weight, but yeah, about 44-45% is going to give you 120 knots. In the
Cardiff Tower, this is Golf Echo Golf Bravo Whiskey.
DA42.
Golf Echo Golf Bravo Whiskey, Cardiff Tower, thank you very much. You can now join the report left space runway 12.
The TDI,
Roger,
the 130
report
horsepower
left
TDI is
space,
slightly less power,
runway
so you need
12,
to use a slightly higher power setting.
Golf Bravo Whiskey.
Easy 145, maintain altitude 3,000 feet. Runway 12, clear for takeoff, service wind
Right, I
110
am
degrees
turning at
and
the
9
right
knots.
time this time, so let's see how the
Taking
timings
3,000
work
and
out
runway
this
12,
time.
clear for takeoff, easy 145.
And then we'll do, after this one, we'll call ready for the procedure. And then next time over the beacon, we're going to set off down the teardrop procedure, which,
Golf Bravo
if everything goes well,
Golf Bravo
should line us
Whiskey,
up with the ILS.
base leg.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, thanks. Join the report final runway 12, your number 1. There's one aircraft to depart as an A320 IFR.
Roger. Golf Bravo Whiskey.
So there's 60 to go, so you can see the needle's high, so in the real aeroplane I'd be thinking, right, needle up, wing up, I'd be stopping my turn early in order to intercept the inbound, but as previously mentioned, it doesn't quite work like that in Microsoft Flight Simulator, so I can't demonstrate that effectively. But it is looking like we're going to be there or thereabouts on the inbound, so happy days. My rough and ready maths does appear to have worked. And all we need to do now is see if our timings worked out.
Easy 145, recontact me, Cardiff radar frequency 125, decimal 855.
125, 855, easy 145.
There's the beacon going around now. We're 10 seconds late. I'll take
Cardiff radar,
that.
good afternoon, easy 145,
Close
3,000.
enough.
Easy 145, Cardiff radar, thanks. Climb now to altitude 6,000 feet.
Climb 6,000, easy 145.
Cardiff radar, Tomjet 49 Yankee.
Tomjet 49 Yankee, sorry for the contact me, thanks for contacting. I've just got departure traffic to deconflict. Heavy vectors ILS 09er, maintain present heading.
I maintain present heading, Tomjet 49 Yankee.
Easy 145, turn left heading 340 degrees.
Left heading 340, easy 145.
And exam 93. Next time over the beacon, ready for the procedure.
Fan 9S3, roger, next time over the beacon, cleared ILS DME approach runway 12, report beacon outbound, maintain altitude 4,000 feet until advised.
Next time over the beacon, cleared for the ILS DME runway 12, maintain altitude 4,000 feet until advised. Exam 93. Right, so that's our
Tomjet
clearance for the
49 Yankee,
approach.
maintain altitude 2,500 feet, turn left heading 180 degrees,
Once
stay
more
flight.
around the hold, and then next time we cross the
maintain
beacon, we're going to be following
2,500
this
left
track
180 degrees,
287
base leg, Tomjet
outbound.
49 Yankee.
Easy 145, climb now, flight level 150.
Climb level 150, easy 145.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, final.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, runway 12, clear to land, surface wind 110 degrees, 9 knots.
Clear to land, runway 12, Golf Bravo Whiskey.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, I have a feeling you're lined up for St Athan, an airport just to the west of Cardiff. Just confirm, runway 12 at Cardiff.
Roger, runway 12 at Cardiff. I'm using Sky Demon.
Oh, no.
And I'm localised on
This is
to
too
Cardiff,
realistic.
runway 12.
It's just
Is that
like
not what
real
you can
life.
see? Golf
No,
Bravo
that's perfect, I can just see you turning now, no worries.
Understood. Okay, no worries, Golf Bravo Whiskey.
Oh my days.
Tomjet 49 Yankee, further left heading now, 120 degrees, intercept localizer 09er.
So Sky Demon is
I left 120 for the runway
for
09
the US
Tomjet
guys,
49
it's
Yankee.
basically 4Flight. So it's the iPad app that every GA pilot is addicted to in the UK. Because it just tells them where they are all the time.
Easy 145, resume own navigation direct,
Right, so that's it.
Breton.
Direct Brecken, easy 145.
Really like, yeah, he is very, very good. Like I said, he's a colleague of mine, former colleague, and he's a current first officer for a big holiday airline in the UK. So he's a proper pilot as well, not just a light aircraft pilot. very, very professional, and really cool hearing all the different types of
145,
traffic
climb
and
flight level
frequency as
240. I can offer you a better direct, but it'll take you outside controlled airspace. You happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Easy 145.
Easy 145, route direct Nixie, climb flight level 240. It's a deconfliction service outside controlled airspace.
Direct Nixie, climb flight level 240, easy 145.
perfectly on the inbound. Oh, it's almost like I did this for a living for 7 years. There we go. Right. Okay, so next time over the beacon, we're not going to be turning outbound. We're going to be 287. So let's do our pre-approach checks now. So aids are all set, checked, and identers. Let's get the DME. In fact, let's.
Golf Bravo Whiskey, welcome to Cardiff. Vacate right, park south side at your discretion. Thanks for flying.
Roger, vacate right, park outside my discretion. Thank you very much for listening in. Golf Bravo Whiskey.
Yeah, and we've just got the DME to go.
Sam 903, you can cancel altitude restrictions, descend with the procedure.
Alt restriction cancelled, descend with the procedure, exam 93, thank you. Right, let's get our asses down. So we can go down to 3,000 feet before we cross the beacon, and then after we're going down to 2,200. So let's start descending now. Let's get a little bit ahead of the curve. There's the beacon.
Subject 49 Yankee, the surface
So
wind
down
is
to
Bristol
2200,
150 degrees,
and
10
then we
knots.
need
There's no observed traffic on the radar.
287.
1 Unicom 122.8. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you for the help. And we've got Unicom 122.8, top jet 49 Yankee, goodbye.
we come. Now we're pulling the tail of the needle to 287, so we're looking for the radial 287 from the NDB. So I'm going to turn a little past it and allow the blue needle to come towards me. Okay, so aids are identified, set, checked and identified. ATIS, we've got current ATIS on board. Briefing, so it's going to be 11-1 ILS runway 12 at Cardiff. 1107 on both the radios.
Sam 93, report localizer established runway 12.
We'll go exam 93. We've got minimums of 410, it's 405, but 410 is as close as we can get. It's a 3-degree glide, standard approach, high intensity approach lights. Pappy's on which side? Who knows? Pappy's on the left. And the missed approach is going to be straight ahead to 3000 and a left turn back to the beacon. So that's that. At 8 miles on the DME, that's when we're going to be making our inbound turn. So we're going to be making sure we're on this radial before we get there, because we don't really want to be inside or outside of it. Well, certainly not inside of it, because that's going to make our life a lot harder. Outside of it isn't going to be too difficult. Flying an NDB, damn, never had to worry about those. Yeah, if you're US guys, you've probably never had to worry about one of these. They're pretty much non-existent over there now, aren't they? In the UK, unfortunately, we're still afflicted with many an NDB, especially at terminals. So most of our guidance when it comes to flying raw data, holds, and procedures comes from NDBs. Because we, of course, live in the aviation equivalent of the third world. So that's our briefing complete. Checks, so brakes pressurized, undercarriage defer, mixture mags don't have, fuel's on sufficient imbalance, flaps defer, instruments green carpet don't have, hatches and harnesses all secure, lights, let's go landing light on. It's getting a bit bumpy. Okay, 200 feet to go.
Easy 145, radar control.
See the glide slope coming in now, but we're offset from the centre line.
Easy
So we're not
145,
gonna pay
nothing
too
further.
much
Monitor Unicom
interest
122.8.
to that.
Have a safe flight. Dublin Tower's currently online.
Unicom 122.8, thanks for the reroute. Easy 145, see ya, bye bye.
Drop.
See ya. Okay, 1 more mile to go before we make our inbound turn. Our radial is pretty much spot on. We're getting smacked around all over the place. ABC checks are all complete. We're at the right altitude. Oh god, it's all going too well. Something's about to go horribly wrong, isn't it? Eight miles and around we go. Normally what I do at this point is set a rough sort of intercept. So we're coming around rate 1. Now these procedures are generally set up for aircraft that are flying maybe a little bit quicker than us. So if we do about that, we're probably going to have to fly a little bit of an intercept, but we'll see. Maybe not.
Cardiff radar, good afternoon. 73002.
73002, Cardiff radar, good afternoon. Let's get you to Squawk. Oh, it's coming up now. Squawk 1143, Bristol landing 09er.
Squawk 1143 and landing at Bristol at
Yeah, there we go. So we just need to fly a little bit of an intercept, but we're keeping a close eye on that CDI bar. As soon as it starts moving, we are going to follow it in because we've got wind from the right, so that's going to be pushing us tight on this turn. There we go, around we come. Oh, he's getting rough. That's my excuse anyway. Exam 93, localizer established.
Exam 93, thank you. Continue approach contact Cardiff Tower 133.105.
Continue approach, contact tower 133.105, exam 93, thanks. Should have set this up ahead of time, but never mind. 133.105. Transfer. Back on the power a bit. Go quick. Cardiff Tower, good afternoon, exam 93, established localizer, runway 12, 7 miles. Is that the right frequency? 133.105, oh, of course it isn't. It's 105, not 005. Cardiff Tower, good afternoon, exam 93, localizer established, runway 12, 6 miles.
Exam 93, Cardiff Tower, good afternoon. Runway 12, cleared low approach, go around, surface wind 110 degrees, 9 knots, report going around.
Clear low approach, runway 12, Wilco, exam 93. Right, I've gone gear down, flaps approach, just as the glide slope was coming past the midpoint, so the half scale deflection part here. And we're now going to reduce power a bit as well. Now this is all going to depend on your weight and the wind conditions.
73002.
We've got 93 knots ground speed. We should be aiming for about 400 feet per minute as a nominal rate of descent. So whatever power setting gives you 100 knots at 400 feet per minute is what you should be going for. So at the moment, about 30% is giving me a reasonable speed. Now, once that alarm goes off, that's my prompt to set missed approach altitude, which is 3,000. Sorry if I'm ignoring chat at the moment because I'm a little bit maxed out. The wind's going to back and slack as we come down, so back means it's going to swing around to the left and slack means it's going to decrease. So we've got to be constantly adjusting our heading, and also our target rate of descent is going to subtly change as well as our speed over the ground increases, but at the moment it's decreasing. So
when ready, descend flight level
what's going on.
80.
We've still got about 90 knots, so we should still be aiming for about 400 feet per minute. About 400 feet per minute, he says, as he goes for 200 feet per minute. So don't want to be decreasing rate of descent too much to catch it up. We want to avoid going past 1,000 feet per minute. That would be an unstabilized approach.
Easy 73 from time at OFIM. I handle some of the Bristol arrivals. I just need to sequence you with another arrival from the south. If you can just turn left onto a heading 120 degrees and intercept the localizer, please.
120 degrees, intercept localizer.
Thank you.
Okay, through 1,000. Manual lands. 410 Barrow. Approach altitude set. Getting a bit close to unstable. Nowhere bloody near it. Jog on. Okay, that was a little bit close.
703002, leave
It's rough,
X4
alright.
heading 070 degrees, up your vectors ILS runway 09 at Bristol.
Leave X more 070, expect vectors 793,
500.
Check visual, or rather not visual.
$500.
Again.
73 Uniform Tango, further on the approach is at your discretion. Monitor Unicom 122.8, surface wind at Bristol, currently 140 degrees, 9 knots. Bye-bye.
122.8, thank you for the house, goodbye.
Minimums not visual, going around. Positive climb above takeoff, safety gear up. And still positive. Gear up, lights out, flaps up. Exam 93 going around.
Exam 93, roger.
Back to max continuous. Right, now we need to give ourselves an engine failure. So I'd ask you which engine I should fail, but inevitably you're probably going to say the hardest one. So I'm just going to give myself a left engine failure. So bang, there we go. Right. Power up, gear up, flap up,
Check gear.
go up. Left leg dead, left engine dead. Confirm, bring the throttle back
Check
to idle.
gear.
No change in sound or yaw. Confirm,
Check
simulate,
gear.
feather. There we go. Pitch for blue line, fly it away. Any fire, no fire detected. The glorious DA42 single engine performance is helping us out here. Still getting over 800 feet per minute. I think some of that is thermal, to be fair. Thank you, Microsoft Flight Simulator. But yeah, we're mostly tracking runway heading. Come this way just a little bit, and we're still climbing very nicely. Just aim for about 10
Exam
degrees.
93, contact Cardiff Radar 119.155.
Cardiff Radar 119.155, exam 93. Cardiff Radar exam 93, going around runway 12, flying straight ahead, altitude 3,000 feet, and it's simulated asymmetric now.
Exam 93, roger, climb maintain altitude 3,000 feet, and let me know when you're able to turn northbound.
Climb maintain altitude 3,000 feet, and we'll be ready on reaching that altitude, exam 93.
93, roger.
So I can give myself some rudder trim to help out as well. Whee. So this is the reason why you always check your rudder trim on the ground, because if you don't have this, your life is made significantly harder. In the real aeroplane, now, of course, I've only got cheapo Thrustmaster rudder pedals to push against, which don't have an awful lot of force to tire my legs out. But in the real aeroplane, I'd be slamming that right pedal with the force of 1,000 suns right now, so I'd be getting pretty tired if I didn't use the trim to help me.
Approach, hello, Golf Alpha,
We
Charlie,
are at
Charlie
safe-ish
Delta,
altitude now, so what I'll probably do at this point is
Cardiff.
run through my securing checks, which is alternator affected side, left side, select off, and fuel selected side on the affected
Golf
side
Alpha, Charlie,
off as
Charlie
well.
Delta, Cardiff Radar, good afternoon to you. Hold position, are you familiar with the standard VFR departure routings? Don't worry if not.
I've checked the chart. I haven't flown them before, but I've checked the charts.
Is that a yes or a
Cool.
no?
Charlie Delta, Roger. I'll get back to you now. Break 7 Air 3002, descend flight level 70.
70, 7F3002.
Right, so you can see we're levelled off.
Golf Alpha, Charlie Delta, Cardiff. Roger. So, hold position. You're cleared to leave the Cardiff control zone to the south by the published South VFR departure routine. Sort of altitude,
flying at fairly comfortable airspeeds on
feet,
one engine.
Squawk 3642.
Clear to leave the control zone to the south, not above 1,500 feet, and squawk 3642, Golf Charlie Delta.
Golf Charlie Delta, read back correct. QNH 1020, information Juliet.
Roger, Juliet on board, Golf Charlie Delta.
Sam 93, when able, turn left heading 360 degrees initially and advise your further intentions.
Left turn head 360 degrees. We'd like to depart controlled airspace briefly for general handling sortie block between altitudes 3 and 5,000 feet for about 1 to 5 minutes, and then we'll be ready for our vectors for the RMP. Sam 93.
Sam 93, Roger. If you continue, heading 360 degrees, and I'll let you know when I can give you that block.
Left head 360 degrees. Thanks. Sam 93.
Golf Charlie Delta, taxi or discretion holding point Golf runway 12 in use.
Taxi my discretion holding point Golf runway 12, Golf Charlie Delta.
Right, around the corner we go. You'd also want to consider using your crossfeed in a real life engine failure situation. So you'd want to know if your crossfeeds actually work or not, because that's going to dictate significantly the amount of remaining fuel you've got.
Tracks miles from touchdown. Descend to altitude 3,000,
earlier you know whether that's working or not, the better.
QNH 1020.
Down to 4,500, 1020, 7F3002.
Exam 93. Are you able to accept a block between altitude 4,000 and 6,000 feet?
A firm Exam 93.
Exam 93. Roger, climb, maintain altitude 4,000 feet and expect that block altitude in about 7 miles.
Climb, maintain altitude 4,000 feet, Roger, Exam 93. Right, so we've sufficiently demonstrated to our examiner that we can fly on one engine at this point, and we can handle an engine failure after takeoff or go around. So I'm going to add in my second engine now while we do the general handling. So add that in, reset the trim, and up we go to 4,000 feet. Now we have to demonstrate that we can fly an approach on one engine, so I am going to take the engine back away again.
3,500.
But we'll do that once we're on the way back in again. Getting quite a lot of turbulence. This is coming off the Welsh hills. It's what happens when you have a sort of northerly wind at Cardiff.
Cardiff radar, good afternoon. ET 78 Lima Echo is passing 5,000 feet on the X41 Zulu departure.
Easy 78 Lima Echo Cardiff radar, good day, squawk 3632, fly radar heading 255.
Okay.
Squawk
so
3632, fly radar heading 255 degrees, 78 Lima Echo.
73002, descend to altitude 2,500 feet, turn left heading 360 degrees.
Down to 2,500.
Where are you going? Heading. Oh my god, what the hell?
Exam 93, you can now start your general handling in the block 4,000 to 6,000 feet. Basic controlled airspace is at 4,000 feet, so expect little to no traffic information from below. If you could just remain north of your present position until advised.
Maintain north of present position and manoeuvre and block between 4 and 6,000 feet and copy traffic information. Exam line 3. Right, so...
Easy 78 Lima Echo, climb now, flight level 150. You happy with the deconfliction service at side controlled airspace? I could give you a more
slow
direct
things down back
routing
to
then.
about 120 again for our general.
Yep, that's fine, and climb flight level 150, Easy 78 Lima Echo.
Easy 78 Lima Echo, thanks. Climb now, flight level 240.
Go back to
Route
the
direct SIDHO
for
to
a
deconfliction service
awareness.
outside controlled airspace.
Not paying complete attention
Climb
to
flight
ATC, you may
level
have missed this,
240,
but
adaptive to no deconfliction
why do you descend
service,
direct from
easy
4 to
78
2 rather than following the descent profile on the chart? Okay, so the descent profile on the chart
73002,
is based
right
on
heading
being
060
allowed to
degrees,
descend to the minimum
establish localised
hold
correction, cleared ILS
altitude
approach
as soon as
runway
you're
09.
cleared for the approach.
Right,
Now, for controller reasons, he made us stay higher than that initially, presumably because he had traffic coming in and out of his airfield.
Golf Charlie Delta, holding
Which
short
is
1-2
fine,
on Golf.
but it means that we weren't down at 3,000 feet when we started the procedure. He did, as we were sort of just before we got to
Golf
the
Charlie
beacon,
Delta
he
by
cleared
Golf line
us
of White Runway
to
12.
December the procedure, so I did start down to
1
3,000,
Golf Charlie Delta.
but we crossed the beacon pretty soon after that, and therefore we were straight down to 2,200. So that's where that came from. Right, so you've probably seen me, if you've seen any of the videos that I've done, you've probably seen me do most of these general handling maneuvers. They're pretty straightforward, actually, but you'd be expected to do them totally on instruments. So your examiner would be checking outside for you and doing the lookout. So first of all, let's get rid of the flight director. And go away, autopilot. There we go. Yeah, so your damper as well, I suppose. There we go. So initially we'd start off with some steep turns. So a steep turn has to be a minimum of 45-degree angle of bank, maintaining heading, maintaining altitude, maintaining speed. So a little bit fast at the moment, actually, but I guess we'll maintain 130 instead of 120.
So 3002, nothing further.
Going
Business
in there
wind to
already.
Bristol.
And we're going to make it to the left.
degrees 9 knots. Monitoring
So,
top 122.
down we
Bye
go.
bye.
Looking for 45 degrees, angle of bank, and about
Golf Charlie
2.5
Delta,
degrees
thanks for
nose
the
up,
waiting.
which
Runway
should give
12
you
clear for takeoff. Surface wind
maintain
110 degrees 9
altitude
knots.
and about 10% on the power.
Clear for takeoff, 1-2 Golf Charlie Delta, thanks.
And this is something that's, once you get this down in the real aircraft, it's very easy, and it's equally easy in this CAS DA42 because the flight model's been extremely well modelled, courtesy of very good developers and, of course, amazing testers, which I was one. So there we go. We can pretty much fly that exactly as we do in the real aircraft. Anticipate the rollout by about 15 degrees, and then roll that back straight and level. And don't forget to reduce your power back that 10% again to maintain your speed. So there we go. That's the steep turn. You might get one in both directions just to make sure you can do it both ways, but let's assume our examiner is especially kind of us. So floor buster rate, 150 feet, mate, 200 legally, so I was nowhere near that. Get your facts straight. Right, let's go up to 5,000. In fact, yeah, let's go up to 5,000. Next thing we're going to do is stall. So we're going to do a clean stall, fully developed. Recovery at the point where the stall is fully developed. So let's do a Frida check. So, sorry, let's do a Hazel check. So height is sufficient to be recovered before 2,500 feet. Airframe's clean. Safety and security are all secure. Doors are closed. Engine TCP is green. Location, clear of active airfields, built areas, controlled airspace, danger zones, and lookout. The examiner's going to do the lookout for us. So we'll probably do a lookout turn to help him out as we climb.
Golf Charlie Delta, continue VFR, not above altitude 1,500 feet.
Continue VFR not above 1,500 Golf Charlie Delta.
Golf Charlie Delta, thanks. Recontact me on the Cardiff radar frequency 119.155.
119.155 Golf Charlie Delta.
So the clearing turn is just to make sure we've got no traffic anywhere around us. I mean, obviously that's going to come up on TCAS, and we've got radar service and all the rest of that good stuff, but we'd always have a good look out beforehand and then go straight into the maneuver. So idle throttle, pitch to maintain altitude.
Check gear.
Cardiff radar, Golf Alpha Charlie Charlie Delta, 1,200
Check
feet.
gear.
Golf Charlie Delta, thank you. So basic service on leaving controlled airspace. Once
Check
outside,
gear.
remain outside.
Basic service outside, and once outside, remain outside.
Check
Golf Charlie
gear.
Delta, thanks.
Okay, and she's pretty much gone there, isn't she?
Check
There we go.
gear.
That's a stall. So, just reducing the attack to get rid of the stall warner, full power, and recovery to best rate climb. Keep her at VY, about 92. There we go. There's a clean stall. You've seen me do that before. It's a fairly straightforward recovery procedure. It's really interesting to watch. I'm going to go prepare my own VATSIM flight here. Good landings. Thank you very much, Regix, for watching. I hope to see you next time. Okay, so that's that. So the next thing we're going to do is the slightly more complicated thing. So normally you'd have a little screen that you can put up in front of the PFD to force you to look at the standard stuff. But we don't have that in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up, get rid of that, bring up the menu, and I'm going to go to manual, and I'm going to turn down the brightness on the PFD just to, now you can't really get rid of it totally, but you can dim it off. Now what I'm supposed to be doing at this point is concentrating entirely on the standby instruments, compass over here and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So first of all, let's make a quick turn onto north. So I'm just going to make a very gentle turn here. Now we don't have our turn coordinator, so we don't really know when we're doing a standard rate turn, but we have to just work it out from bank angle. So it's TAS over 10 plus 7. We're doing about 130 knots, I guess, at the moment. So 13 plus 7 is 20, so 20 degrees angle of bank is the second of those two white lines there. So that's our pull the CB. Ah, yes. That's an idea. On both. No! Just stick a piece of paper on your screen. Yeah, I guess. No, CB is a good idea, isn't it? Where's the PFD? There we go. Right. And MFD. Right. Okay, there we go. Right. Right. We're properly failed now. Of course, this would never happen on a real test. No examiner is going to make you do something like that. But hey ho. So now we've got to demonstrate a time turn. So we've got to. The only way we can turn is a standard rate turn, which is 360 degrees, 2 minutes. So based on that, we can work out how long we've got to turn for to achieve specific headings. So I'm going to have to use a stopwatch on my phone, I guess. Bear with. Get back onto that north heading. So let's say initially the examiner says, right, I want you to take up a heading of east, please. So it's an easterly heading, so it's going to be a left-hand turn. And it's going to be for 30 seconds. So let's try and get back onto north as best we can. So east is a right-hand turn. What am I talking about? This is the beauty of flying with a compass. Right, there we go.
EZ78 Lima Echo,
okay, start. Bye-bye. Right, in we go. 30 seconds.
Nikon for EZ78 Lima Echo. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tommy, for counting me down, mate. I've got a stopwatch in chat. Okay, there's 30 seconds. Let's see how we did. Roll out, let it level. Not quite there. We're about sort of 070. So let's go for a little bit further. We've got about 15 degrees, so that's going to be about 3 and a bit seconds. So yeah, 4 seconds. So basically, we can just do like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and back again. See how well we did. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, let's do one more. So let's go on to a heading of, let's say 180 to just go back towards. There's no room for skill issues like instruments failure. Yeah, thanks, Mal. So let's go back 180 because that's going to take us back towards Cardiff for our approach. So it's another right-hand turn. It's going to be another 30 seconds. And start. Round we go. That's 30 seconds, roll wings level. And we're a little bit shy again by about the same amount, so let's go another 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, roll out. That's 180. So there's a time turn, really basic drill of how you do it. Normally you'd have a little screen just to cover this up, and you can use a stopwatch on this side. And normally what I'd do is I'd carry a piece of paper with a compass rose on it for situational awareness. Now we pray that our PFD and MFD come back to life, but let's see. It's looking good so far. Let's put this back onto auto. The heading aligned, keep the wings level as much as possible while the AHRS realigns. Prayers in chat, please. Okay, cool. Maybe if I do that and get back to... Oh! Thank you, Jesus. Right, autopilot. Heading, altitude. Let's rebuild everything, and then we can get ready for our approach. So, let's go back to that. And get rid of the landing light again. We'll keep these on because we're coming back for the approach anyway. Exam 93, we are general handling complete now. Request vectors for the RMP to land.
Exam 93, roger. QNX check 1020 at resume your own navigation towards Ivnim for the RMP runway 12.
QNH 1020, own navigation Ivnim for the RMP runway 12. Exam 93.
And exam 93, maintain altitude 5,000 feet until advised.
Maintain altitude 5,000 feet until advised. Exam 93. All right, select approach. Let's pop this in. So it's going to be RNAV GPS 12 via Ivnim. There we go. And let's just check the charts. So approach RMP. Let's get that there. As minimums are for Cat 8. Now we should really just be flying this in LNAV. It's supposed to be a 2D approach, but we can't turn off LNAV VNAV, so we've got to put in that. So 460 on there. And activate. And then we're going back to the old Magento line.
EZ13 Charlie Victor passing flight level 250 with you.
EZ13 Charlie Victor, Cardiff radar. Good afternoon. Bristol landing 09er, squawk 1015.
Bristol landing 09er, squawk 1015. Easy.
So let's ABC before we take the engine away again. So AIDS and ATIS. So we could get another ATIS at this point if we had enough time. In fact, let's try and do that. See if there's any change.
+5 QNH 1020. Acknowledge receipt of information Kilo, and advise aircraft type on first contact.
EZ13 Charlie Victor, thank you.
Cardiff
Descend now, flight level
information
110.
time 15500.
Sonalo 110
Automatic. Runway in use 12. Surface wind 140 degrees 9 knots. Visibility 10 kilometers or more. No cloud detected. Temperature +11. Dew point +5. QNH 1020. Acknowledge receipt of information Kilo.
Okay, information Kilo. We got the important stuff from that. That's all on board. Briefing. So let's get our chart up on here, shall we? So it's going to be the RMP runway 1212-1 at Cardiff. We've got the comms frequency set up this time actually. So we've got 119.1155 on the active, 113.105 for tower on the standby. Final approach course is going to be all automatic. There's no frequencies to tune, but we're going to brief from the glass to the plate, make sure we've got the right approach in. So we've got IVNIM, OGPUV, final fix, missed approach point, and then 1, 2, 3 Cardiff missed approach hold point. So IVNIM, OGPUV, final fix, missed approach, and then Cardiff for the missed approach hold. So that all checks out. Minimums 460 for LNAV VNAV. Like I said, we'd normally be doing this 2D, but I can't turn the glide slope off, so we may as well comply with the correct approach. And that's on here, 460, good to go. Right, same deal as before, PAPI on the left-hand side, high-intensity approach light system. And then missed approach is going to be as directed by the purple line, but it's going to be 3,000 straight ahead to that waypoint, and then a left-hand turn into the hold. Okay, to join the hold. Okay, so yeah, round this procedure here, so Fox, Mike, 1, 2, 3, and then over the beacon to hold. So that's our briefing, and then checks. So brakes pressurised, undercarriage defer, mixture, mags don't have, fuels sufficient and in balance, flaps defer. Instruments green carpet don't have, hatches and harnesses all secure, landing lights can come on. There we go. Were the DA42s LPV capable before the B-word debacle? Some of them were, yes. Not all of them. The older ones weren't. Depends what G1000 fit you've got. Right, so...
993, descend to altitude 4,500 feet.
Descend to altitude 4,500 feet, exam 93. Right,
before we do that, descend,
let's get rid of the autopilot.
70.
Let's get rid of the flight
Hotel level
director.
70 EC 13 Charlie Victor.
And let's get rid of our engine number 1 again. So we're going to fly this asymmetric, and there's a few slightly different things you're going to do with the aircraft when you're flying an asymmetric approach to a standard one. In fact, we shouldn't be doing this to land. We should be doing this for a visual circuit. So, exam 93 request.
Exam 93, pass your message.
Yeah, after the approach, we'd like, if possible, to make a single visual circuit to land. So it'll be a missed approach first time round and then visual circuit.
Exam 93, roger, let me just coordinate with the tower.
Roger, thanks, exam 93. See if he can accommodate that. No trouble if he can't.
Exam 93, I've just checked with the tower, that's okay. It'll be a left-hand visual circuit, runway 12, not above altitude 1,500 feet.
Left-hand visual circuit, not above altitude 1,500 feet after the low approach. Thank you very much, exam 93.
Exam 93, thanks. Descend to altitude 3,500 feet. You cleared the RMP approach runway 12 via IVNIM. Report final approach track established.
Descend to altitude 3,500 feet and cleared for the RMP approach via IVNIM. Report final approach track established, exam 93. Okay, so that's our clearance for the approach. Let's keep coming down. And it's got 3,200 there. Let me just double check that. Yeah, 3,200.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, turn right heading 06, correction 070 degrees.
Right heading 070 Easy 13 Charlie Victor.
And exam 93, request altitude 3,200 feet.
Exam 93. Avon, you can now descend with the procedure.
Same with the procedure, exam 93. Just making sure. There we go. 3-2. What's a human's RMP performance level? Depends on how smooth your hands are. RMP 5 if it's me. If you're actually competent, RMP 0.3.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, descend to altitude 3,500 feet. Bristol QNH 1020. You've got approximately 25 track miles from touchdown.
Roger, 3,500, 1020 track miles copied for Easy 13 Charlie Victor.
Golf Charlie Delta, you're reaching the edge of my radar coverage, so free call en route. Have a nice day, bye-bye.
There isn't a defined level. No.
Space service terminated. Is that Unicorn for me?
Required to
Golf
fly
Charlie
Golf Charlie Delta, Avon.
approach
A
is
Unicorn
RMP
for Golf Charlie
0.3
Delta.
or
Thank you very
RMP
much for your help.
approach.
Bye.
So if you can't comply with that, then you can't do an RMP approach of any kind. You can see we've got terminal guidance at the moment, which is RMP 1. It's 1 mile accuracy. But yeah, I mean, there's no requirement to fly it on autopilot, so it's just assumed that if your aircraft is capable of giving the navigational guidance, then you are capable as a human being of flying that accurately. So, fingers crossed. Right, 2,500 is going to be the next one, or 2,200, should we? Yeah, 2,200. So let's continue this descent. No, 2,500 is right. So that's the wrong number there, but the right number there. Oh no, hang on. That's just me being stupid. 2,500 is the next one.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, approximately 2-3 track miles from touchdown. Do you need more miles, or is that okay for you?
That'll be fine for us, Easy 13 Charlie Victor.
13 Charlie Victor, roger.
He's just going to go into slew mode and descend some more. Right. Yeah, the only point where autopilot becomes sort of mandatory is when you're getting into Cat 3 approaches and Cat 2 approaches. They do define that you require autopilots and flight directors to be able to fly that.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, turn left heading 350 degrees face length.
There's a left heading 350 for the base, Easy 13 Charlie Victor.
Go. Now, every time I'm moving the throttle, of course, I'm having to make a subsequent change on my rudder pedal inputs. I could be messing around with the trim and all that kind of stuff, but honestly, it's much easier if you're just lively on your rudder pedals rather than constantly fiddling with the trim. That said, you know, once you're leveled out and you've got a power setting set that gives you your desired speed, then absolutely, you know, trim it out, make your life a little bit easier. But every time you make a small throttle change, if you're going to be changing the trim every single time, you're going to get rather tired. Let's see if we can get the chart on here. If I've got a spare hand.
And Carlos, Easy 13 Charlie Victor will require an extended base if possible.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, yeah, no worries, turn left heading 325, expect to establish from the north.
Roger, 325, Easy 13 Charlie
Yeah,
Victor.
way ahead of you, Rich, I've got rid of it. It's getting in my way as well. Okay, as soon as we're inside half scale, we can call established. So, exam 93, final approach track established.
Sam 93, thanks. Continue approach. Contact tower 133.105. Good luck.
Continue approach and tower 133.105. Thank you. Exam 93. Let's keep it coming over. We've got a bit of crosswind. I'm heading bug. And we're coming up a mile to our top of descent point. So, gear down. Speed below 133. Flaps approach. Cardiff Tower, exam 93, established RMP, runway 12.
Exam 93, Cardiff Tower, good day, continue approach. After the missed approach, cleared into the left-hand visual circuit, not above altitude 1,500 feet.
Continue approach after the missed approach, clear the left-hand visual circuit, not above altitude 1,500 feet, exam 93.
Exam line 3, read back correct, runway 12, surface wind 120, correction 140 degrees, 9 knots, clear low approach, go around.
Clear low approach, runway 12, exam 93. Right, clear for the approach.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor,
Lights
turn
going
right,
on.
I say again, right heading 180 degrees.
Right heading 180,
Get on the
13
centre
Charlie
line,
Victor.
I promise. Right, I'm going to set 1500 for the missed approach altitude now. We're just going to have to ignore the chiming. So you can see I've got a much higher power setting because I've only got one engine to play with here. So whereas we had about 30 to 40% on the first approach, we've now got 60% on our remaining engine. So that's really the big difference between asymmetric and both engines operating. I'm using the same flap setting, and pretty much everything else is exactly the same. With lower performance twin engine aeroplanes, you may want to defer selecting your gear and flap down until you're already in the descent. But the great thing about the DA42 is it's got so much performance on one engine, it's not really something you need to do. I'm just going to add a little bit more power in there, go for about 70%. Make a corresponding change on the rudder pressure. See, our ground speed is only 72 knots. That means we only need about 350 feet per minute rate descent, which is pretty low. Which is why I'm having to pile even more power on now to keep us in the ballpark of 100 knots. A little bit slow, which is not ideal. I'd rather be a bit fast than a bit slow, especially on one engine. So
Easy
we'll try
13
and fix
Charlie
that.
Victor, descend to altitude 2,500 feet.
Descend altitude 2,500, easy 13 Charlie Victor.
Now, even more than usual, I'd want to avoid making adjustments, too many adjustments on the throttle, because every time I adjust it, I'm having to change my position on the rudder
Easy
pedals.
13 Charlie Victor, turn left, heading
But as
120
you can
degrees.
see,
clear
our
down
ground speed
approach
has now
runway 09
increased
at Bristol.
significantly, so the wind has
120, clear ILS 09er
decreased
for easy
significantly
13 Charlie Victor.
as we come down the approach, not entirely unexpected. So now I'm having to select a much higher rate of descent and a much lower power setting to compensate. I'm going to give myself 50-foot margin on this, as you should always do with a non-precision approach anyway, but also with us being asymmetric, we're going to need more room to get the aircraft climbing away than we would if we had both engines available.
500.
Check, not visual.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, if required, descend to altitude 2,000 feet.
Roger, we'll be fine for now, easy 13 Charlie Victor.
Roger.
500.
Okay, going around. Power up, gear up, flap up. Immediately gear and flap goes up. I'm not waiting for positive climb, because we do not have the climb performance to be messing around with that. That's one of the big differences with asymmetric flight. Now, technically, this should be like a bit of a demonstration of a circle to land, but I'm not going to mess up his approach approach pattern by flying a really tight circuit, so I'll try and keep it as standard as possible. And I'll fly at 1,000 feet AGL, airport elevation is 220 feet, so we'll go for about 1,200. Leave the 1,500 on the bug just to...
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, full established ILS 09.
Easy 13 Charlie Victor, thanks. Monotonic 122.8, surface wind at Bristol 120 degrees, 9 knots, bye-bye.
Thanks very much, Unicom, Easy 13 Charlie Victor, bye-bye.
Right, we are now visual, so keeping a good look outside the aircraft. And we're in the circuit as well, so we want to be keeping the speed down a bit. We don't want to go too quickly. About 60% on the live engine. Should give us around about 100 knots. We'll see how we get on. Flying more helicopters, you learn not to care about that. I'm assuming you mean the wind. Yeah, I guess being a helicopter pilot does help for that kind of thing. Shut up, aeroplane. Alright, around the corner again. How are we doing? Airport's around there somewhere. It's just around that. Exam 93 downwind, runway 12 to land.
Exam 93, thanks. Do you want to report final runway 12, number 1?
Do you want to and report final runway 12, number 1, exam 93. Okay, brakes pressurised, undercarriage defer, mixture mags don't have, fuel's on, sufficient imbalance, flaps defer, instruments to the green, carb we don't have, hatches and harnesses all secure. Lights, and this is just the fuel sort of sloshing around in the tanks, so I'm not going to go too crazy. We can't land with the cross speed on anyway, so I'm just going to ignore the indication for now. It should balance out when we get back on the ground. We've not been flying asymmetric long enough for us to have an imbalance of that amount. Let's have a look. We don't be flying too massive a circuit. Okay, starting the base leg turn. Let's go gear down. And I'm not going to touch the throttle, or rather I'm going to touch the throttle as little as possible to make my life easier on the rudder pedals. And I'm just going to use the drag from the gear and flaps to descend the aeroplane. Looking for about 90 knots or so on base leg, so we'll let us slow down a touch. You can see we've still got the guidance from the RMP there, so... do have wind sort of from, well, about over there, so I'm going to leave the turn a little bit late because the wind's going to push us tight. Okay, as final, still looking good. Speed's on, a little bit on the low side. I've got 4 red lights, so we're not going to deploy any flap yet. We're just going to keep her at about 90 knots and let us get back onto the glide slope before we do that. Exam 93, final approach established, runway 12.
Exam 93, runway 12, clear to land, surface wind 120 degrees at 9 knots.
Clear land, runway 12, exam 93. Right, bash the taxi lights on. Check visual. Oh, the throttle rudder couple. Ah, okay, yeah, I get you. Right, we're on the glide now, so let's go speed below 133, approach flat.
November 145, Alpha Juliet, California, good day, landing runway 12 at Cardiff, descend best rate of descent, flight level 150.
We are now committed, so let's go landing flat, and that should bring us back there or
November
thereabouts
5
to
Juliet,
85
squawk high
knots without me having to use a great deal of throttle input. It's still pretty rough.
Number 145 Alpha Juliet, thanks. Route direct Charlie Delta Foxtrot.
And coming into the touchdown, I'm just going to take up both throttles and land normally if I can. Where's the sensor line? Oh, it wouldn't be one of my streams if I actually made the sensor line, would it? Right, we're down, we're in one piece. Let's get a taxi chart. What's that going to be on? My info? Yeah.
Exam line 3, welcome to Cardiff. Vacate right hotel, parks outside at your discretion.
Thank you very much, sir. Vacate right at hotel and then my discretion. Thank you very much for the awesome ATC exam line 3.
I hope it went well. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Cheers, mate. Right. Someone's in a DC3. That's pretty cool. And we'll park up somewhere over on the left here once we've done our after landing checks. 10 out of 10 landing runway markings are just a suggestion. Yeah, I'll go with that one. Right. Okay, so lights. So let's get the landings and strobes off. Pitot heater is coming off. Transponder is going to stand by. Flaps are coming up. Fuel pumps coming off. We'll note the time about 16:31, let's say, for landing. Brakes off. Taxi in. We should pull up next to this PA28. Sounds good to me. There is a guidance that says you're supposed to keep the revs below 10% as you taxi in, because you've got to allow the turbochargers to cool, but that's only guidance in fantasy world in my book. It only exists if you believe in it. Right, let's get a little bit closer and then we'll spin it round. We can use the shopping trolley manoeuvrability of the DA42 to help us out. Round we go, round we go, round we go. Ooh, a little bit too far. Come on, flame. That'll do. Parking brakes set. And taxi lights coming off. Avionics can come off. And engine masters. And electric master. Get the door open. Right. It's like the Polar Express. Yeah, you got to believe in it, haven't you, to make it real. So let's see where the poll is. We got 50% pass, 8% fail, and 42% bacon. So I think out of that, I think I've passed, and we're all getting bacon. So fail, lol. Okay. Yeah, put it in the poll. Now's your last chance. Vote in the poll. How you think I did? If you can, that's interesting. Only on VATSIM. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed watching me struggle with all the different tribulations of an IR skills test, and also you got to watch. So I'm going to shut this lid while that thing's having a jet-powered tail dragger moment. Hopefully you got to see some of what the DA42 can do by cows. It's an amazing aeroplane. I've got a review video out there, so if you want to go watch the review video and see what I think of this aeroplane in more depth, then please do. It's a brilliant bit of kit, in my opinion, even though I was one of the guys who helped test it, so I'm a little bit biased. I think it's well worth the money, and it's a representation of one of really the best piston twins out there on the market. So yeah, okay, debrief. All right, what's your debrief, Rich? Go on. Do you do you want to come in chat and you can debrief me? Let's have a look. I'm in general on Discord if you want to debrief me, Rich. That's just a Douglas DC330. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the tail dragger variant of the A330. So yeah, there we go. Any questions from chat? Anything you guys want to ask me about the plane or about flying or anything like that? Now's your last chance. Heck no, debrief yourself. Okay, fair play. I mean, I suppose I'm a little bit biased, but I didn't bust the minimum requirements for the profile at any point. Flew the correct hole entry. Timing's a little bit off on the first one, but the subsequent one's much better. Approach was rough, but we kept within the half-scale limitations and 10-knot limitations on the speeds. General handling was fine, and yeah, we pulled some circuit breakers to do the time turns, so I think, all things considered, I thought I did quite well, personally. But yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me. If you're a VOD watcher, thank you for watching the VOD. Be sure to drop a like before you shoot off. Thank you very, very, very much. Obviously, we're only a small channel, so every little view, every little like helps us out a huge amount. And please, if you want to pop over to Discord, ask us anything, by all means, do that. There's a link on our community page of our YouTube channel to join our Discord. If you want to suggest any future live streams, suggest any videos you want us to make, please feel free. And hopefully I'll see you all on this channel next time. So take care and goodbye.